Come on, gang, the sooner we get going, the sooner the bar will open. So. Okay, well, I hope everybody enjoyed the first sessions. I learned a lot, so we're going to move on here. As always, we've got a lot of events coming up, and there are a few that are coming up really quickly that I'd like to bring your attention to. Our youth group, Youth Professional Network, is really fun to hang out with. They're doing a lot of networking events, and they've got one on February 6th that's being hosted at Bloomberg News new offices in the town center. So that's one not to be missed. And by the way, sometimes they let us old folks come and it's fun. There's a networking breakfast. This is a first ever that we're going to try, a session on auto warranties and recalls. That will be on March 5th, one of our early morning ones. And we're already totally booked in terms of pretty much in terms of speakers. It's come together really nicely. The OEM Supplier Purchasing Summit, really a must attend for people who are purchasing in the supply area. That's Tuesday, May 13th, as always, at American Axle. It's a great event. John Hankey, who I saw here from Planning Perspective, will give his the results of this year's study, and it's always really interesting. He's one of our most popular speakers, by the way. Okay. All right. As we did last year, we're going to get a sneak peek of what you'll see at this week's auto show with those passes that you received in your by being part of Outlook. This year, again, Mark Phelan's auto critic and columnist for the Detroit Free Press is back for an encore performance. Mark began covering the auto industry in 1986, writing for a variety of U.S. and global newspapers, magazines, and online outlets before joining the Free Press in 2002. He's won numerous awards. He's president of the Automotive Press Association and a juror for the North American Car and Truck of the Year. And if you hear an interesting accent, it's because he was born in Thomasville, Georgia, but of Irish parents. So please join me in welcoming Mark Phelan.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and thank all of you for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be back and to take advantage of this very brief window because I've been so immersed in what's coming at the auto show that there's a tiny moment when I know a little bit more about the auto industry than all of you. In 2 weeks, we return to the normal order of things, and I call you to ask you what's going on, what do I need to know about. So this moment is precious to me, and I thank you for it. As well as the picture of me and the very attractive dog sitting next to me in the car. That's my dog Ace. He would send his regards to you. We also have some pictures that'll just be cycling by behind me that are photos of some of the cars at the auto show. They're not in any particular order as far as matching up with the talking points, because most of this information is so new that we don't have photos of many of the vehicles that you'll be seeing. So that's just a little bit of wallpaper to give you a flavor for some of what you'll be seeing. But with that, again, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'll get started. Looking over the panoply of vehicles that are at the show this year, the first thing that occurred to me is it's Ford's world, and everybody else is just looking for a parking space right now. I mean, they have got already shown, but the car most consumers are going to want to see at the show will be the 2015 Mustang, one of the most exciting vehicles, and some of us as journalists have seen it already, but the rest of the world hasn't. That's going to drive people to the show, and it is a truly exciting vehicle. I mean, it's the 50th anniversary Mustang, and it was worth waiting for. Also, tomorrow morning, Ford is still playing coy as to what will actually happen at their press conference, but I think all of us in the press would fall over dead with shock if it did not happen to be a new F-150. And we expect it to be a radical vehicle. We expect it to be one of the vehicles that really does reshape the competitive set for its segment. Look for some really groundbreaking things in materials, in drivetrain. This is probably the next step for the pickup, the thing that moves the most important vehicle to the American economy into a new window of fuel efficiency. So the F-150 is one of the top things that we'll be seeing. Beyond that, there's a fascinating theme shaping up, I think. Are we getting feedback? Are we okay? Okay, we're okay. Sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. I want to make sure you were all right. There's a fascinating theme shaping up. After the last couple of years when car companies were all reaching back to try to entice people into the market, and it was the return of the mid-market buyer, the return of some semblance of stability for the greater part of the economy. This year, everybody's reaching up market, and particularly Hyundai and Kia. I mean, if you think that they've been ambitious so far, take a look at the vehicles that Hyundai and Kia will have on their stand this year. They're just going farther and farther. Oh, that's, now I get it, that's a U-Haul, so it's not the PA. Sorry about that. The new Hyundai Genesis, if the first Genesis was a departure for them, the next Genesis puts it in the shade completely. I mean, it looks like a serious car. It looks like a car that will be able to stand, on its own next to vehicles from BMW and Mercedes and Cadillac. And that's what Hyundai desperately wants to do. And Kia with the 900, they're taking a step even higher than the Genesis, the K900. They're moving into the territory where they hope that they can be considered versus vehicles like a BMW 7 Series or a Cadillac XTS. I mean, Hyundai and Kia, there is no limit to their ambition and apparently to the investment funds they've got to follow those ambitions. So that's going to be very interesting. Also, in the upscale move, keep an eye on the Acura TLX. That's going to be shown. It's a new mid-size sports sedan. It's the replacement for the TL. It's still a vehicle that is pretty much under wraps. They're showing it on Tuesday, and it's vital for Acura if they want to establish themselves as a legitimate luxury brand as opposed to a sort of an asterisk next to all of the luxury brands. They were the first of the Japanese luxury brands, obviously, but they've squandered that opportunity and let others surpass them. They know that they need to get it right. The TLX is their attempt to do so, and it's going to show some very interesting new powertrain technology. There's going to be some surprises under the hood when you see the TLX on Tuesday. In addition, we've got Mercedes continuing its move down market. And we've got the GLA, the SUV version of the Mercedes CLA Compact, and an AMG version of the GLA. I mean, I'm going to be very interested to see how that vehicle does, because I suspect it's the small Mercedes that Americans have been waiting for. The CLA is a nice little compact, but if you can call it a crossover or an SUV, that's going to make it so much easier to sell. And the GLA, the numbers, the specs, the power, all look very promising from it. Also, we've got Infiniti trying to push their brand a little bit farther. You may have noticed they've been working with Red Bull Racing and Sebastian Vettel in Formula One to try to buy some credibility when they go up against brands like Mercedes and BMW. Now we've got the Q50 Eau Rouge, which is a sort of a concept car, but basically it's just a bunch of really racy panels slapped onto a production Q50. It's a lovely looking car, but what they really want to do is establish a connection between them and the great names in the auto industry. And one of those great names is the Eau Eau Rouge corner at the Belgian Grand Prix, of course. Oddly enough, I think it's an odd name to go with for a car, because that corner got its name because the stream that flows by it, as most of you probably know, was turned red by the blood flowing from a World War I battlefield. So that apparently is an image that works for some people, and the Q50 Eau Rouge hopes that it can get past those questions and just tell people Infiniti belongs on the same stage as Mercedes. That's what they're shooting for. One other luxury brand, as we look at lower brands trying to sneak into luxury and luxury brands trying to broaden their envelope, one other vehicle that will be very interesting to keep an eye open for, and this is another one that I don't think anybody has seen a photo of yet. Audi will have a concept tomorrow, and what little advance word there is on it says that you should expect it to be the smallest in their growing family of crossovers. So while we see luxury brands adding smaller cars, also crossovers are getting smaller. Frankly, we're going to have to come up with new definitions for the sizes of crossovers. I mean, what we've been calling compacts for the last few years are now going to be 2 or 3 steps up from the smallest crossovers you can buy. So keep an eye open for Audi. That's one of the cars I'm most interested to see tomorrow. In terms of the significance and the potential for surprise, the Chrysler 200 I think has got a lot of things going for it. I mean, we've all been waiting for what seems like ever for Chrysler to come up with a legitimate, credible, mid-size competitor. And the process of getting vehicles on the road since Chrysler and Fiat have merged all of their product development has been slower than I think anybody would have liked. This coming right on the heels of the full acquisition of all of Chrysler's stock by Fiat. This is a chance for Fiat to say, okay, all the startup problems are gone. We're ready to move forward, and it is a very impressive looking car. It's a new face for the Chrysler brand. When you look at the grills and the lights, there's a lot of new technology. Interestingly, it uses a variation of the same chassis that underpins the new Jeep Cherokee. But it appears to work very well for a mid-size sedan as well. The thing that, based on the vehicles from Chrysler Fiat so far, the thing to watch out for, I believe, is fuel economy. Will they be able to offer a model that has got fuel economy that's on par with the best mid-size sedans? So far, if you look at particularly the Dodge Dart, that's been the challenge they haven't been up to. If they can do that with this car, it says they've made real progress. Aside from that, GM, really having made all of the big management news, is relatively quiet, I think, on the product front. There are a couple of nice looking cars, the new Canyon pickup truck from GMC, the ATS Coupe. There'll be some surprises at the Chevrolet stand tomorrow in the form of a car that goes really, really fast and which is one of the nominees for North American Car and Truck of the Year, but I am embargoed and forbidden from saying anything more than that. But Chevrolet will have another good-looking fast car. The biggest question for me at this point is Volkswagen. I mean, they will have several nice but relatively unambitious concepts that we've seen. That have been shown under embargo. They're all turning the dial a tweak or two on vehicles that already exist. The question that I have, and I think all of you have, is where is Volkswagen's competitor for the Explorer? Where is the next vehicle they're going to build at the plant in Chattanooga? There are enough rumors floating around that at this point it will be seen as a disappointment if they don't have something to say about that this week. But there won't be any sign of the vehicle unless they pull a massive surprise beyond anything that is expected. Those are kind of the vehicles and the brands. Just as one final point before I take any questions that you've got, a theme that's showing up in terms of the last few years, obviously, electric cars, hybrids, alternate fuel, alternate powertrains. were again and again and again a theme or the theme at all of the major auto shows. Not a whole lot of action on those fronts this year, in part because all of those technologies have become so mainstream. The things that, as I was looking at all the advanced material on the vehicles, the two things that looked like they have the potential to become themes at this show are increasing emphasis on lightweight materials in every segment of cars, from what we expect out of the Ford F-150 all the way through to small cars like the new Honda Fit that's going to be introduced tomorrow, and luxury cars, every segment. And also, after what seems like my whole career being spent with auto writers saying, I wish Americans would buy more diesels. Diesels are great. Europeans love diesels. Why won't Americans buy diesels? It finally looks like they're kind of slyly creeping into the market. Without a whole lot of fanfare, we're seeing more diesel announcements. Obviously, Chevrolet got some traction with the Cruise diesel last year. The Dodge Ram diesel is about to go on sale, and there are a few of the vehicles that will be introduced here at the show that we also expect to see diesel derivatives of. So, those are in general the things as far as specific vehicles that I think are going to be interesting, and some of the trends that appear to be showing up at this point. Once again, I cannot thank you enough for the opportunity to speak to you, the opportunity to see such a large, beautiful picture of my dog projected behind me earlier in the Corvette. And if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try to answer a few for you. We got a couple of microphones out in the audience, and I can see them. Raise your hand if you got a question, and if you don't, I will not be offended. Don't worry. Yes, sir. And forgive me, there's a lot of light, so I can't really see who I'm talking to. So if I get a sir or a ma'am wrong, now I can see you. Yes, sir.
The Lincoln Motor Company has consecutively released 2 concept cars these past 2 years. Should we expect this trend to continue?
Surprisingly, and I think rather disappointingly, no. Lincoln's got nothing at this show. They will be the production version of the MKC, which is a crossover SUV that's based on the Ford Edge. That's going to be here, but that was already shown in Los Angeles. It'll be the first time most of us get a chance to see it. It'll be the first time any of the actual customers who are here get a chance to see it. But Lincoln's got nothing else, and frankly, that surprises me, and I found it a bit disappointing, because if you want to reinvent a brand, if you want to build momentum, you have to keep doing things. But nothing from Lincoln at the show. Yes.
Hi. You mentioned the new Chrysler 200 on the Jeep platform. 2-part question. What's your take on how the new Jeep Cherokee's been doing? And then secondly, okay, we've got the 200 coming. All this monkeying around over the past few weeks, do you think they've missed the opportunity on a car that's basically the last hope for Chrysler brand?
Boy, those are fascinating questions, and thank you for them. First of all, on the Cherokee, I will admit that I've been so swamped gathering information and writing stuff for what's happening at the show that I didn't focus that carefully on the monthly sales reports. I believe that, Michelle, if I recall correctly, the Cherokee did quite well in the last month as well. So the Cherokee, in terms of sales, it's off to a very good start. And I got to say, I think it's a dynamite vehicle. It's amazingly technically sophisticated. I mean, when you look at the automated parking, the ability to back itself into a parking lot, into a parking space, which is just so much fun to do. I recommend everybody, if you get a Cherokee, try having the automated parking take place. You're not going to believe how much fun it is to sit there with your hands, your arms folded while the car backs itself into a parking space. But it's got that, it's got automated braking, it's got adaptive cruise control. I mean, it's 1 or 2 lines of computer code away from being an autonomous vehicle. And the reason for that, obviously, is there's not a regulatory framework yet to say who's responsible if something goes wrong with an autonomous vehicle. That's what we're waiting for on that front. But getting back to the Cherokee, it's remarkably sophisticated. It is truly off-road capable. I mean, it's amazing the stuff that vehicle can do. I think that it gave me great optimism for Chrysler Fiat, because that stretching what began as a Fiat platform far enough out to be that vehicle is the biggest reach that they're going to have to do. The 200 is challenging, but it's not as difficult, I think, as the Cherokee. So I think they have the pieces to do it. Whether they will or not comes down to execution. I've got to say, it looks great, and the interior room is good. The features that they're offering, the 9-speed transmission, they're alone in the segment, they're alone in the market with that. They'll have all-wheel drive available for the first time. So, I mean, it is both an appealing vehicle to look at and sit in, and on paper. On all of those fronts, I think it deserves to do well. Marketing is an area that I freely admit I don't understand that well, but Chrysler Fiat desperately needed to succeed, and Fiat as much as Chrysler, because the whole reason for the purchase was so that Fiat has more access to the money that Chrysler earns. This vehicle has to be a big contributor to the bottom line. You can count on Olivier Francois pulling out every trick in his bag to get people's attention, let them know there's a new Chrysler 200, and convince them to buy it.